Now to talk more about the moments from last night's final presidential debate and how each performance might impact the upcoming election, along with the Hunter Biden laptop scandal. My first guest of the evening, he is the president of Americans for Limited Government. Love that title. Richard Manning joining the program. Hey, Richard, how are you, sir?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming back to Real America. We really appreciate it. Where do we begin? Let's see. It was not the debacle we saw like in the first presidential debate. It was much calmer. The moderator was a lot more controlled and not as biased, maybe just a smidge. And I think the president knocked it out of the park and left Joe Biden in the dust. Your take on last night's debate?
Well, I think you're right on. The fact is the president needed to prove he was the president. And I think he reassured everybody that not only is he in complete control of himself, he's in complete control of the facts. He was able to really run circles around Joe Biden when it came to actual facts about problems that really face America. I was particularly impressed how he talked about how in America, we need to figure out how to live with the coronavirus rather than hiding in fear from it. How we need to protect those who are most vulnerable while having everybody else being able to go back to living and not having our country destroyed by cheating our children out of their education and killing our business community in such a way that it will take a generation to recover. So I think he was right on target. I think most people are desperately trying to get back and how to adapt to the coronavirus. And that's the message that the president gave, rather than the dark message that Joe Biden gave that, you know, a shutdown is coming if Anthony Fauci says he wants it done.
Yeah, he even used that adjective, we have a winter of darkness ahead of us, it's coming. And that was the thing I think you and I spoke about several weeks back after the DNC and RNC conventions, how it seemed the RNC left you with inspiration, and they actually talked about light and hope, which, I remember that word about hope and change coming from another president. But anyway, and then the DNC, we're talking about darkness. We're in a period of darkness. That came out of that convention, and Joe is still spewing that nonsense. I don't think Americans need to hear that we're in this dark period. But let's talk about and touch on what you just said when it comes to moving forward and keeping the country open, because we have to learn to live with this virus, not keep closing down, opening back up, closing down, like the state of California keeps doing with their dictator governor there. Since you are the head of Americans for Limited Government, let's talk about tax plans, because that wasn't touched on a lot last night at all. I wish it would have been hammered home more, but we know, we just saw some celebrities come out who don't like Trump just this week and say, I'm going for Trump because Joe's tax plan is going to ruin this country.
Well, it definitely will, and here's the key. You know, the idea that he's going to keep the taxes, only raise taxes on people who make over $400,000 is a complete fraud. The money is in the middle class. And in order to raise the kind of money he says he wants to raise, you have to raise taxes on the middle class. That's just a fact. When they talk about rolling back the Trump tax cuts for corporations, the Trump tax cuts for corporations really was a net of about $50 to $75 billion in tax cuts. Corporations before the President Trump came in were paying about $350 billion in taxes total, and they paid about $275 last year. So they're not going to get the money out of corporations. And oh, by the way, when they tax the corporation passes along to you, the consumer. But so you really don't tax corporations anyway. But what Biden is looking at, in order to do what he wants to do, in order to raise the dollars he wants to raise, he has to raise taxes on you and me. He has to raise taxes on the person who's struggling to make a living. He has to raise taxes on somebody who's trying to save money so their kid can go to college. He has to raise taxes on somebody who's trying to figure out how to deal with their parents and the needs for care after retirement. So those are the people he's looking at, because that's where the money is. There's so many people in the middle class, they can raise taxes by 5-7% and get a lot of money. Raising taxes on the wealthy it really doesn't have much value, because the fact is there's not enough of them to create a lot of dollars through the door.
Yeah, and let's look what higher taxes on corporations, big, medium, and small, has done the last decade or two with globalization and higher taxes. It had them all running out of this country, taking all the jobs, taking all the intellectual property, which we know China stole a bunch of that, but it took us out of the game. and Trump's trying to keep us in the game. So you raise those corporate taxes, you raise tax on folks earning more than 400K, you raise taxes on middle-class families. Like you said, companies will just put that tax onto us. Plus these companies, especially small ones and middle-sized ones, aren't going to expand. They're not going to hire. They're not going to give raises. And I'm sorry, but the big corporations, they've got stockholders to answer to. They're still going to get their bonuses, their payments, their dividends. And so guess what? That's layoffs. That's leaving the country. Period, point blank. One of the president's best comments, I think you'll agree with it, Richard, success is going to bring us together. Because Joe was talking about he'll be the president to bring us together, but another shutdown and taxes is going to crush this economy, and that doesn't bring Americans together.
Well, the really interesting thing is Joe wants to pretend like he's the uniter, when in fact the Democrats want to divide everybody by hyphens. They want to say that, oh, you're this hyphen, so you get to have this benefit, but you're this, but you're not, so you don't get to have that benefit. You know, the idea that we're all created equal, endowed by our Creator with certain inalienable rights, among these life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, is one that's the DNA of our country. And while Joe talked about that, what he really meant when he was saying that was that certain people were going to have certain privileges and other people were not. It was really a divisive America that he's looking at, and that's the darkness he's talking about, is a divided America. The fact is, Donald Trump is exactly right. When the African American community has the lowest unemployment rate in history, as they did in February of 2020, when the Hispanic community has the lowest unemployment rate in history, as they did in February of 2020, before the Chinese virus hit, when there's more women in the workforce than ever before, as it was in February of 2020, that's when you find commonality, because we all pull together. We all have the same kind of challenges. We're in the same workplace. We're working together. You don't have to force integration. Integration occurs as we work with people, as we deal with people. And that's how we end up becoming together and uniting. Because the fact is, underneath our skin, we all are humans created equal. And Donald Trump knows if we provide equal opportunity for people, we will, in fact, create a system that is much more equal in how people are treated.
That's right. When you set up the system and try to say, you're a victim, so we're going to help you more than folks over here, instead of just creating a level playing field where everybody's earning more, everybody's fair and equal, that will create more equality, brotherhood, sisterhood, and camaraderie with your fellow American. I totally agree. Richard, they're giving me the hard rap, and it's a Friday. We got a bunch of guests to get to, but I appreciate you always coming on the program. Richard Manning, the president of Americans for Limited Government. You have yourself a great weekend. What do we got? 11 days to go, man. I'm biting nails.
11 days. Let's keep pushing. Thanks, Dan.
Thank you. You take care. Be safe. As we learn more and more about the Biden family connections to China and cash flowing directly to Hunter and the big guy. We know who the big guy is, Joey from the block, of course. This now sheds more and more light on why the former vice president may be compromised. Straight ahead, we're joined by a national security expert that'll break it all down for us. Don't go away.